This is my Cookery Zone podcast, a podcast brought to you by my Cookery Zone platform, also known as the connoisseur in food reporting. Food safety and hygiene has become a mainstream topic. The idea of making food safe for consumption is key with those who see to its affairs. To our listeners around the world, thanks for tuning in and thanks for clicking play. I'm Iyanoluwa Fagbiyetemi, and this is my Cookery Zone podcast. While those who see to the affairs of making food safe, like chefs, cooks, government agencies like NAFDAC and London PTC, whose major goal is to make food safe. We'll get back to this, but let's meet Chef Elyon Essien, who is joining us from Lagos and will be discussing food safety and hygiene.
Talking about the handling, preparation, and the storage of food in a way that reduces the risk of people getting sick. That was it, basically.
Does it cover drug as well, or just majorly food?
No, that would be drug safety and precaution.
We are very much aware that there was a time when we were in lockdown just because of the coronavirus. During the pandemic, did it occur to you that food could be a carrier of the virus?
Well, it can't be a carrier because it's airborne. It's airborne, so you could get other diseases and infections. Know how you could get COVID-19 as it is an airborne disease. So you get it either by contact or by aliens or by being in a close relation with someone who is already infected. You cannot get it from food, or you can't even thrive on food.
If you can't thrive on food, why are we keeping food safe then?
Okay, so there are other illnesses and diseases you can actually get from eating ill-prepared food. So let's take, for instance, your meats.
Okay.
You don't cook your meats well enough, you could get food poisoning. And the effect ranges from mild to extreme, and extreme being death. Yeah, you could get salmonella, E. coli, from eating not properly made meat, chicken. You see, I'm sure you've watched cooking videos of where people make chicken, and your chicken is looking all white and it's not well cooked, or you can see red in it and all that. Especially those that eat medium rare.
Yeah, that brings me to that question. Why do we not have those range or those kind of ranges when we talk about food preparation, or to be specific, meat preparation? Why do we have those? Why is it in ranges? Why can't it just be cooked?
It's basically preferences. Now, for me, I like my meat well cooked, grilled. Like, I want my spices and ingredients and herbs in the meat well enough. I don't want to eat meat and I'm seeing blood in it. It's irritating and it's not even healthy. So it's basically preferences, and culture too. We down here in Africa and some parts of the world like food well cooked. You go to Jamaica or the Caribbean, any country in the Caribbean, they like their meat well cooked. Even if it's grilled, it's well cooked and done. But if you go Western, you see them eating stuff like that. And basically, people's system differs. So I don't know what exactly, but preferences, culture, those are the factors that come in play.
In a case of food contamination, how can this be managed? How can it be managed?
Once food is contaminated, it can't be managed. You have to do away with it. That's one. So the thing would now be to prevent food contamination. To do that, you need to be really careful. From storage, by storage I mean, so how do you store your meats? How do you store your dry produce? How do you store your veggies? How do you keep them? So some persons, they put their meats like in nylons and it's in the freezer and it's frozen, and then the nylon here, and then the water from the meat is seeping out into the freezer, and then in that same freezer they have their veggies, they have other things in it, so everything just gets contaminated, and you will not know until you cook. You can't really tell, except you are a seasoned cook. You cannot really tell food is contaminated until you cook it.
That being said, Elyon Essien walked us through how we are to store dry and fresh produce.
Dry product, you store it above the ground, so it should not be directly on the ground, like on the floor rather. So you, let's say your yams, your tubers, and your rice and all that, so it should be on a platform directly above it. So it has to be in either Ziploc bags, or you put this in a really tight container that it's not leaking. And it's separate. So you know that section is basically for your meats and your fresh poultry and all that. So nothing is contaminating anything. No water is seeping from here into your veggies section. And then your veggies too, if you're going to be keeping it, it has to be well washed under running water. Well cooked too. If you're eating it cooked. If you're going to eat it fresh, it has to be well washed, like thoroughly under running water. The emphasis is under running water, not in a body of water, like in a bowl. It has to be under, so it washes it down into the drain. Now preparation, we've talked storage. Now preparation. When you're cooking, you should not use the same chopping board for your meats and your poultry and all that, and your fish and seafood.
The concept Elyon Essien is trying to explain, whereby food contaminant is transferred from one source to another, is cross-contamination, and it is very, very prevalent.
And use that same chopping board for your veggies. That's contamination already. You've contaminated the veggies.
And this is called cross-contamination, if I'm very correct.
Yes, yes you are.
Okay.
So that's a recipe for food poisoning, because if you go ahead and use that veggies to make a sauce of this in cooking, that food is contaminated. Forget that, it's going to be thoroughly cooked. No. Not everybody can undo any slight form of poisoning. Like last year I had food poisoning twice.
If you mind sharing, how was that experience for you?
It was horrible. It was really horrible. One was really extreme, like really extreme. And just during the Muslim holidays, I think it was Salah period last year. It was horrible, really horrible. Like I was writhing in pain for hours. You really cannot joke with that stuff. Really can't joke with it. So that's one, cross contamination. You need to avoid that. And then thoroughly cooking your food, really important. If you're grilling, you should be grilled to doneness. So even if the outside is crusted, is the inside properly cooked? So that's the problem with people who eat medium rare. So they look at the outside, it's brown, it's dark, it's almost black, but the inside is still red. So that's why. So if you're grilling, you should not grill too big a chunk. It should not be too large. Otherwise, the whole outer part will be cooked, so to speak, but the inside is just red, still raw. Yeah, that's the word, raw.
Generally, how can we make food safe for consumption?
From your storage, your grains, your ingredients, do you keep them? Sometimes people they buy curry, for instance, down here we buy curry and then you put it in nylon and just keep it somewhere, or you put it in a bag of curry and then rats go there and poop in it or pee in it and all that. You don't know, you might see tiny grains of poop in it, but they peed in it. And the person just go ahead and just drink it raw like that. That's a recipe already for food poisoning. From your storage to the prep for the food and then the cooking itself, you need to be really careful. You need to be intentional about these things. When you're cooking, people should clean while they cook. So you can be careful from storage to cooking and the whole process, and then while you're cooking, your environment is dirty, you use a bowl and then you just drop it somewhere and then you touch that bowl and then you use that hand to touch something you're about to put inside the food you're making on the fire.
Earlier, I told you of the agencies whose goal is to keep food safe, like NAFDAC, London PTC, and the World Health Organization. According to the World Health Organization, foodborne hazards are responsible for 137,000 deaths and 91 million acute illnesses in Africa every year, mostly affecting children under the age of 5. The risk includes dangerous strains of bacteria like Salmonella and E. coli, as well as tapeworm and other parasites, and naturally occurring toxins like cyanide. Public health experts are worried that little is being done to address the problem. Now, more facts from World Health Organization. Diarrheal diseases are the most common illnesses resulting from the consumption of contaminated food, causing 550 million people to fall ill and 230,000 deaths every year. Food safety, nutrition, and food security are inextricably linked. Unsafe food creates a vicious cycle of disease and malnutrition, particularly affecting infants, young children, elderly, and the sick. Food supply chains now cross multiple national borders. Good collaboration between governments, producers, and consumers helps ensure food safety. I hope this episode has been informative and enlightening, and I hope we've given you that reason to click on the subscribe button on any of the platform you're listening to us from. Do well to leave us a rating and review. If you want to tweet at us, probably you want to tell us more about food safety or your experience on food safety, the handle is at MCZ Podcast or at my Cookery Zone. Do well to use the hashtag MCZ Podcast so we can see your reviews, comments, and ratings. Thanks to the team at my Cookery Zone for making this possible. That is Iyanolua Komolafe and Daniel Ochuko. Thanks to you too for listening. I am Iyanolua Fagbi Temitokwe, and this has been my Cookery Zone podcast. My Cookery Zone podcast is brought to you by my Cookery Zone platform. Thank you for listening.